All right. Well, very good afternoon, everyone. This is a very special episode because it's the first one in English, and I have a very special person here in this workshop, Nick. Hey, how are you? Thank you so much for being in this conversation and workshop.
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to get into the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So when I was thinking about this topic, I really couldn't think about a better person to talk about this because we have so many shared stories working in projects, and I feel really fortunate to have worked with you in the past and learn about your values. And I was writing this intro to one of the invitations I was doing early this week about how we share values and how we shared some common best practices. So that's I really feel fortunate about that. So we will definitely or probably will be talking about some of those stories and some of the best practices that we have gathered in the past. But yeah, I think in this session, we would like to talk about these sometimes great understanding, some other times not so great understanding between devs and product managers, because we need to say that we as developers, you as product managers, sometimes there are different priorities, there are different goals that they're trying to achieve. So in this talk, I think we will go over many topics and subtopics about what are common things, and maybe we can talk about some strategies about how to overcome these issues. So I I have prepared with Nick a great mind map in a tool here that we're gonna go over and travel through. So let me just quickly share my screen with everyone. Yeah, so you guys should be seeing my screen. So I I I titled this "Communication Strategies to Improve Product Manager and Developer Relationship." This is so much. There are a lot of topics to go through, to be honest, and I want to start, Nick, with just the basics, just quick thoughts and quick suggestions about things that are common in this land. So um, can we maybe start talking about some of the PM tools that you commonly use? I know that uh, most of the people use Jira, but you certainly have tried some other tools, and I want to know maybe your thoughts on Jira and maybe other these other tools that you have been trying.
For sure, yeah. So I guess from my perspective, my thoughts might be a little bit unconventional, I guess, about tooling. For me, the right tool is the one that works best for the team. So whether that's Jira, whether it's just a list in Notion, whether it's I've tried ClickUp and Trello and so many others. It's really what is a good fit. Even GitHub issues can work for a lot of teams. That's what we use actually at Steam Clock. So really, it's landing on a tool and an approach that is going to work well for both the product manager and the development team. Because some of these tools can be opinionated about how they work and how regimented you need to be in terms of how you use it. So Jira is great because you can be very strict with that process, right? You can only allow certain kinds of actions in certain circumstances. But sometimes, in some cases, you need more flexibility. So yeah, I think it really comes down to what the team needs and how you want to communicate.
Yeah. I think one thing that I've noticed, for example, in startups is that, or small companies, that they have a lot of flexibility trying out these tools, right? But when it comes
Yeah.
to like escalating and going to more corporate companies, they either use like the cloud version. They have like a their own instance for the tool, and that make things really bad sometimes because they need to be constantly upgrading those as compared to maybe having the cloud, the specific cloud version. So I'm talking, for example, here at Bitbucket or Jira as well. Like some companies, they do decide to go this road. And it's sometimes it's frustrating, but at the same time, these companies, for some security policies, they need to have their own instance, right? Have you Do you have certain specific thoughts about that? Like how well can you be flexible depending on the company size?
Yeah. Most of my experience has been working in smaller companies where we had the flexibility and typically would opt for the cloud version of a product. But I can think back to many situations where I've had to work alongside a larger company where we didn't have that flexibility and it's the on-prem version. And yeah, I mean, it's often a headache, not just in terms of like the limitations on what is maybe what the software is capable of doing. Like maybe it can't do all the things that the cloud version can, so it's difficult to find the right documentation for how to approach a situation. But even just from like the security standpoint of like logging in, and if you have external contributors like from third-party organizations and agencies and stuff, and how do they get in, and it can be a real headache. Especially at the smaller organizations when you probably don't have like a dedicated IT team for those upgrades and all that maintenance. Like there was a company I worked at a long time ago that we were focused on open source. And so there was like an allergic reaction to